Hello. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about Satan. From his origins in ancient Hebrew to his varied roles in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Take a look at his evolution, and we're also going to touch on what the number of the beast is all about. But that subject is an entire show in and of itself. So let's do this. Satan comes from the ancient Hebrew word śāṭān or sawtawn, which translates to adversary or accuser. And back when these texts were written, an adversary could mean many things. It might be someone who challenges you in a court of law, a competitor in a contest, or something standing in the way of reaching a goal. I'm pretty sure that it's the same then as it is now. So, to the early people who used this term, it suggested a figure who presented challenges rather than the embodiment of evil that we often associate with Satan. The word accuser also sheds light on how this character was viewed in early contexts. In religious traditions, this could mean that the figure called out moral failings or questioned one's faithfulness. What this could mean is that the title of Satan was not used as a specific name or person or entity, but more as a description of someone who opposes or questions. In Judaism, the idea of Satan is more like a character in God's court with a very important job. If God is the boss, then Satan is there to test the people to make sure they're really sticking to their beliefs. Satan isn't a scary creature lurking in the shadows. He's pretty much a lawyer that's arguing a case, challenging people to show how strong their faith is. He's there to ask the hard questions. It's not about being evil. It's about making sure you've thought through your beliefs. The most famous story about it is in the book of Job. Satan is a part of God's heavenly team, and he gets permission to test Job. And Job is supremely faithful. But Satan had a hunch that Job's faith might not be so strong if bad things start happening to him. So Satan gets the go-ahead to put Job through the ringer. It's all about seeing if Job will turn his back on God or if he'll hang on to his faith. At the beginning of the book of Job is a scene in heaven where Satan stands before God, and God asks Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job?" And Satan immediately accuses Job, a righteous man, of fearing God only because God had prospered him. "Strike everything he has," Satan says, "and he will surely curse you to your face." Job 1:11. God grants Satan limited permission to put Job to the test. Why do the righteous suffer? This is the question raised after Job loses his family, his wealth, and his health. Job's three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, come to comfort him and to discuss his crushing series of tragedies. They insist his suffering is punishment for a sin in his life, but Job remains devoted to God through all of this and contends that his life has not been one of sin. A fourth man, Elihu, tells Job that he needs to humble himself and submit to God's use of trials to purify his life. Finally, Job questions God himself and learns valuable lessons about the sovereignty of God and his need to trust in the Lord. Job is then restored to health, happiness, and prosperity beyond his earlier state. So in Judaism, Satan is not always a symbol of evil either. He serves a specific purpose and plays a larger role in discussion about faith, loyalty, and how people deal with challenges. In Christianity, Satan takes on a more profound role as a rebel, the one who stands against divine authority. He's viewed as a fallen angel, someone who was once part of the heavenly hosts, but was cast out due to his insatiable pride and desire to be viewed as God's equal. His fall from grace is a story that serves as a cautionary tale of the dangers of hubris and the consequences of challenging the Most High. It is this figure associated with the serpent that is said to have introduced sin into the world through the temptation of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. This pivotal moment has had lasting implications according to Christian theology, marking the beginning of humanity's struggle with sin. But what about Satan's fall from grace? Well, Lucifer was among the highest of angels, admired and beautiful. However, his heart grew proud, blooming with an ambition that overshadowed his wisdom and love for God. It's been said that Lucifer wanted to be more than an angel. He wanted to be equal with God, possibly even above him. This desire led to his ultimate downfall. It's described as a rebellion in heaven where Lucifer and a group of angels who supported him tried to rise up against God, but they were not strong enough and were cast down. Lucifer, now referred to as Satan, had fallen from his high moral standing, driven by his arrogance and thirst for power. This fall transformed him from an angel of light to the prince of darkness. marking his legacy as one of the greatest cautionary tales of pride leading to a great fall. This story serves as more than a dramatic heavenly event. It's often seen as a moral lessons on the danger of pride and the importance of humility, especially in the face of the divine. It reminds believers that ambition, when not checked by a moral compass, can lead to one's own demise. But bear in mind, this character is not merely a symbol of evil, but also represents the complexities and ongoing battle between good and evil that humans face every day. Through the narrative of Christianity's fallen angel, the message conveyed is one of vigilance and staying true to one's faith despite the temptation that might lead one astray. In Islam, Iblis, or śāṭān, was among the highest ranks of the angels. However, Islamic teachings recount a defining moment that set Iblis's story apart from other celestial beings. It was when God created Adam, the first human, and commanded all the angels to bow before him in a sign of honor and respect for the creation. While all angels prostrated, Iblis refused, consumed by pride. He argued that he was superior to Adam, being made from smokeless fire while Adam was made from clay. This act of defiance was not taken lightly. Iblis's arrogance and disobedience resulted in his fall from grace, with God expelling him from heaven for his insubordination. However, before Iblis left, it sounds like he just opened the door and walked out. Oh, I'm getting out of here. He made a request, an ominous one. He asked for the chance to lead humans astray until the day of judgment, aiming to prove their unworthiness. God granted this request, but also promised that Iblis, now known as śāṭān, would have no power over God's sincere servants. Many of us have grown up with stories that picture hell as a fiery kingdom over which Satan rules supremely. In popular culture, it's the underworld where the devil sits on a thorny throne, plotting mischief and punishment for wayward souls. Or if you're a fan of Bugs Bunny, he has a podium where he reads from a book and describes all the sins that everyone has done, and has a pitchfork. Sometimes he's dressed in pajamas, the devil pajamas or whatever, but still part of pop culture. Contrary to popular belief, the devil is not depicted as the ruler of hell with pitchfork high, surrounded by pools of lava and broken air conditioners, but rather as a sort of wandering instigator with Earth as his main stage. It's a misinterpretation that has taken roots over generations, and one that we often see echoed in stories, films, and cartoons. To further push the narrative that Satan wanders the earth being the instigator, all we have to do is take a look at the story of the Garden of Eden. The devil, in the form of a slithering snake, tempts Eve to take a bite from the forbidden fruit, a moment that has ripple effects throughout history and religion. Another potent symbol is the dragon, a mythic creature that breathes fire and often represents chaos and destruction in legends around the world. The dragon encapsulates the fear and awe that Satan instills, cementing his reputation as a formidable figure in the collective consciousness. Then there's Baphomet, a figure with a goat's head, wings, and a humanoid body. This image melts together various elements of the occult and remains one of the more enigmatic and misunderstood symbols. It surfaces in various esoteric traditions, often mistaken as a direct depiction of the devil, although it originally may have represented a balance of opposites. To kind of dispel the silly notion, the image of Baphomet, the image, not the creature in and of itself, or the person or the angel, was created by Eliphas Levi as a symbol for the Knights Templar. But whether it was created to show their true nature of being evil or occultists that sided with demons to push their agendas, or it was created because it just looked cool, is one for debate. So here's a little more on Baphomet. He's a deity which the Knights Templar were accused of worshipping, that subsequently became incorporated into various occult and Western esoteric traditions. The name Baphomet in trial transcripts for the Inquisition of the Knights Templar started in 1307. It first came into popular English usage in the 19th century during debate and speculation on the reasons for the suppression of the Templar order. Baphomet is a symbol of balance in various occult and mystical traditions, the origin of which some occultists have attempted to link with Gnostics and Templars, although occasionally purported to be a deity or a demon. Since 1856, the name Baphomet has been associated with the sabbatic goat image drawn by Eliphas Levi. That's what I said earlier. Composed of binary elements representing the symbolization of the equilibrium of opposites, half human, half animal, male and female, good and evil. Levi's intention was to symbolize his concept of balance, with Baphomet representing the goal of perfect social order. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Now, back to Satan. But there is another story about Satan that should be talked about. Robert Johnson, who sold his soul to the devil, the Delta legend, that's what it's known as, is a story that centers on a midnight meeting between a frustrated guitarist and Satan himself at the intersection of two highways called the Crossroads. In exchange for mastery of his instrument, the musician was willing to sell his soul to the devil. The guitarist stood at the crossroads and played his instrument until Satan arrived in the form of a black male. The musician presented his instrument to the mysterious stranger, who tuned it, played some chords, handed it back to its owner, and a musical covenant had been reached. The guitarist now possessed the ability to play any tune he desired. However, his soul belonged to Satan. This story has been told in one form or another throughout history, the Robert Johnson version being the one that's the more popular Americanized telling of the Crossroads story. We've talked about the fall of Satan, the testing of Job, and a little bit about the symbols of Satan, the serpent, the dragon, and the beast. And now, really what we're here for is, what is the number of the beast? And I'm not going to quote the beginning of the Iron Maiden song. Oh, it is pretty cool. Some religions believe that the number of the beast is 666. There are a few that believe it's 616. For this show, we're just going with 666. It's when the majority believe that the number of the beast is that, go with the majority. We will dedicate a show to learn about the number of the beast in the near future, whenever, in the next couple of weeks or so. So the number 666 has stirred a mix of fear, curiosity, and speculation for centuries. It's known as the number of the beast. It's a symbol that many have learned to associate with Satan. But where does this number come from, and why is it linked to Satan? In the book of Revelation, the last book of the New Testament, the number 666 appears. Here, it's described as the mark of the beast, an ominous figure that seems to rise in opposition to all that is good. What's fascinating is that rather than a literal mark of evil or a badge worn by a sinister character, many scholars believe the number might actually be a complex code that ancient readers could have understood to mean something entirely different from what we imagine today. The code could have referred to a specific person or political power, decipherable only to those with particular knowledge of the historical context. Through the centuries, 666 has become a huge part of global culture, showing up in movies and books, on toy monster trucks as shorthand for something supremely evil. Yet it's important to note that in numerology, numbers like 666 could also hold different meanings altogether, unrelated to any demonic entities. In our exploration of Satan and his many depictions, the number 666 stands out as a beacon of mystery and misconception, inviting us to look beyond the surface and question the stories we've been told. In a world filled with vast religions and belief systems, there's a particularly intriguing contrast between theistic Satanism and symbolic Satanism. Theistic Satanism, for starters, is not what popular culture might make it out to be. It isn't about horror movie rituals or causing chaos. Rather, it's a more serious, albeit minor, religion that reveres Satan as an actual deity. Followers respect and worship Satan not as an embodiment of evil, but rather as a figure of enlightenment and understanding. On the flip side, we have symbolic Satanism, which doesn't worship Satan as a literal being at all. Instead, it uses Satan as a symbol of certain human characteristics: skepticism, liberty, personal freedom. The Church of Satan, perhaps the most well-known group under this category, views Satan not as a god or spiritual being, but as a representation of human traits and a metaphor for challenging conventional norms and values. Satan has always captivated the imagination of artists and writers, giving rise to an array of cultural depictions that often reflect societal views of evil and morality. Dante Alighieri's Inferno, a part of his epic poem, The Divine Comedy, takes us through the 9 circles of hell, where Satan resides as the ultimate punisher, frozen at the center of the earth. It's here that Dante portrays Satan not as a fiery overlord, but as a grotesque creature trapped in ice, eternally gnawing on the treacherous. On the other hand, John Milton offers a different take in his seminal work Paradise Lost, where Milton's Satan is a complex, even relatable character wrought with pride and ambition. This fallen angel becomes a symbol of rebellion and individualism, famously stating, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." Both Dante and Milton's work have cemented Satan as a cultural icon, demonstrating how he has been a canvas for humanity's deepest fears and questions of free will. During an incredibly challenging time for Jesus Christ, one that tested his resilience and faith, he found himself face to face with Satan in the barren wilderness. For 40 days and nights, Jesus fasted, and during this period of extreme vulnerability, Satan emerged with the intention to tempt him. The story tells us of 3 potent temptations that Satan presented to Jesus. First, Satan urged Jesus to turn stones into bread to quell his hunger, exploiting his physical weakness. Yet Jesus refused, replying with Scripture, emphasizing that man shall not live on bread alone, but by every word that comes out from the mouth of God. In his second attempt to entice Jesus, Satan transported him to the highest point of the temple in Jerusalem. There, Satan dared Jesus to throw himself down, insisting that God's angels would save him. But then again, Jesus stood firm, not testing God. Satan's final ploy involved showing Jesus all the kingdom of the world and their splendor, promising him all their power and glory should he bow down and worship Satan. True to his faith and mission, Jesus dismissed this temptation, affirming that only God should be served and worshipped. Through these trials, Jesus exemplified the power of steadfast faith and the ability to resist the most alluring of temptations, setting a profound example for humanity. Within Christian teachings, the concept of the end of times is a period filled with dramatic events. One of the central figures in this unfolding drama is Satan. According to Christian eschatology, eschatology is the part of theology concerned with what are believed to be the final events in the history of the world. Satan is expected to play a pivotal role. He is said to amass a great army and wage a colossal battle against the forces of good. This ultimate confrontation is often referred to as Armageddon, a term which originates from the book of Revelation. In this prophetic vision, Satan's rebellion reaches its climax as he confronts God directly in an attempt to overthrow divine authority. However, the texts tell us that Satan's efforts will be in vain. In the epic narratives depicted in the Bible, specifically the New Testament, we find that Satan's fate is to be soundly defeated. The scripture goes on to describe Satan being cast into a lake of fire, a symbolic and eternal punishment for his transgressions. This act of divine justice serves to underscore the triumph of good over evil, an eternal theme in Christian doctrine. But what's poignant about these teachings is not just the vivid imagery, but the underlying message of hope they convey to believers. Despite chaos and moral decay in the world, the promise of Satan's defeat offers a vision of ultimate justice and redemption. It serves as a cornerstone for the belief in a future where good is restored, evil is eradicated, and everyone is happy. Within the many narratives about Satan, one striking concept is his portrayal as the antithesis of God. This duality presents Satan not merely as a troublemaker or an accuser, but as a very embodiment of evil, standing in stark contrast to all that is considered divinely good. This notion is not uniformly accepted across all faiths, but it does emerge in particular interpretations, especially within certain Christian viewpoints. In these perspectives, while God is seen as a wellspring of love, grace, and mercy, Satan represents hate, malice, and temptation. It's as though there's a cosmic tug of war with humanity caught in the middle. It paints the human experience as a battleground for a moral struggle between the righteous path laid by God and the malevolent diversions orchestrated by Satan. However, it's important to note that this stark opposition is more a feature of popular culture than of theology. In many religious texts, Satan's role is complex, serving various purposes that often go beyond the simple binary of good versus evil. The image of this duality has captured imaginations and has become a fixture in literature, art, and the broader discourse of the nature of morality, temptation, and the human condition. Satan is more than just a character from religious texts. He embodies the challenges we all face in our day-to-day lives. Think of Satan as a symbol, something that represents our own struggles with making the right choices. You know when you're tempted to break a rule. That moment when you're weighing right from wrong, that's when this symbol comes to life. It's not just about following rules. Let's talk about pride. You've probably felt really good about something you've done, and that's okay. Sometimes, if we're not careful, we can start to feel like we're better than others. This feeling, which many stories say got Satan into trouble, can lead us to make unkind choices. Ultimately, what we learn from all the stories about Satan is that he isn't just a spooky creature. He's a way for us to think about temptation, those moments when we really want to do something we probably shouldn't, about pride, about all those tricky decisions we have to make about what is right and what is wrong. I'm sorry, this turned into a morality story. These are parts of everyday life and growing up. So next time you hear about Satan, remember, you need to think about your choices that you make every single day. That's all I got. Like, again, I'm sorry that this turned into a morality thing. That was weird, even for me. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.